Hello everyone and welcome to my kitchen. As you can see, I took everything from my pantry out to basically show you how I go about organizing my pantry, what is in it, and maybe give you some inspiration to implement more healthy snacks or ideas into your lifestyle. So let's get started. I'll try to stay as organized as I can. So the way I go about cooking, and I would suggest you do the same when building your meal, is always to think of your protein first. So remember, first, what is my protein in my meal? Then thinking of your healthy fats, and then as last, carbohydrates. So some of the sources of protein that I always have available. So in my fridge, I always have some biological tofu. I try to buy biological as much as I can in the shops that we have here. So tofu is always in my kitchen. So when I want to go for plant-based, for example, curry or even a ramen soup or something like this, tofu is my go-to, which is also a great source of protein. Second source of protein. Now, if you don't like dairy or you don't eat them, then that wouldn't be for you. But I always have a pot of cottage cheese into my fridge, some mozzarella, and also some paneer. I don't know if you know paneer. Paneer is this Indian cheese, totally addicted to it, and they make the best curry. So if you're doing an Indian curry, take paneer cheese. It's just like the best ever. If we continue with protein sources, where was it? Oh yeah, still in the cheese section, halloumi is also another one of my favorite. So I have a slight addiction to cheese, as you can see, but halloumi is definitely one of my favorite. I love the taste. I actually just snack on it in the evening like that. So you just cut it, put it in the pan without any oil, without any fat whatsoever. You just make it golden on both sides and then you eat it. And that's literally a snack for me. It's just pure halloumi and it tastes delicious. If we still think about protein, so some of the hacks, if I know, for example, if I don't have meat or if I have plant proteins but not enough of them, few of the hacks that I always give my clients is to just include more of the nuts and seeds into your diet because they're full of protein. So the first one, which is actually the highest, it has 34 grams of protein per 100 grams, so which is huge, and that's hemp seeds. And so I just spread it like around my plate when I have a salad, for example, or into any other meal. If you have a soup also, I would put it in. So hemp seeds is one that I love. Second one would be nutritional yeast flakes, and that's the same. If you look at the amount of protein, it's like 30 grams for 100 grams, so really huge. Also, it has a kind of a cheese salty taste, so if you're craving for some cheese taste, you can totally like put that in. It is already salted, so nutritional yeast flakes is always something that I love to add to, also on top of my salads. When it comes to nuts, I love making this mix myself, so it has pine nuts, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, linseeds, and sesame seeds. So that's a mix that I always use on my salad too. So I would just spray either hemp seeds or that, or both at the same time, and spray it over my plate. Another nuts that I'm addicted to are pistachios. Same, that's just a snack for me. It's like whenever I don't know what to eat, I just come to my kitchen and I would just snack on pistachios, which are also like full of protein. It has 20 grams of protein for 100 grams. Another source of actually protein, which is plant-based, which I love, is quinoa. Quinoa is one of the grains. I don't eat much grains. I figured out if you think of pasta or even oats, all those things, I don't eat that much, but quinoa is one that I absolutely love. It's actually technically not a grain, but it's really one that I love and that I have for everything. It's full of protein, very low calorie, and very filling. So I really, really love quinoa. Second grain that I often cook with is couscous. So if you've seen some of my meal plan, I always do a ras elan and couscous, and so for that you need couscous, obviously. One of my favorite dishes of all. Also full of protein or red lentils, and one of my absolute favorite soups, because if you also know how I cook in general, I cook twice or 3 times a week, and I do my meal plan, which would be like more of a curry base or something very rich for lunch. And then for dinner, I would have a soup and maybe with an avocado toast on the side or a salad. My favorite soup of all is the Turkish red lentil soup. So red lentil is something that I always have available in my kitchen. And same, it's really full of protein. It has 24 grams of protein for 100 grams. So that's an amazing one. And it's a really filling soup. In general, soups can be kind of bland and not really filling. This one is really rich and really filling. So if you don't have red lentils, would totally suggest that. If you think of, oh, and tahini, of course, which is another one. And if you look at the amount of protein, it has also 25 grams of protein for 100 grams. Tahini is basically made of sesame seeds. So same as I was telling you for the mix that I had with sesame seeds, if you want to do how do you call it? Yeah, just tahini actually. If you want to make a sauce or a hummus dip, that's an amazing one to have. I really love tahini, and it's just a very healthy snack. So whenever I don't know what to do as a snack, if I want to prepare in advance, I would do tahini, hummus, or eggplant hummus, all of those things, and you always need like tahini for that. So tahini is one that I really love. The sesame seeds, I have both, and the black and the white. That's just personal preference because I love both colors. Especially if you cook Asian, then often you have sesame seeds in, and I just love mixing them up. Another one, yes, and that's one that you can really use, especially for breakfast. So what I see a lot with my clients is that they are lacking proteins in general in their diet. And if you have breakfast, I don't. I do intermittent fasting. So my first, the way I break my fast is actually with my lunch, so I don't have a breakfast. But if you do, it's a great idea to bring chia seeds in to have more protein. Because for example, if you're just eating fruits in the morning and maybe a tea, that might not be filling enough and you're probably lacking on some protein. So chia seeds are the same. It's for 100 grams, you have 33.7 grams of protein. So a huge amount of protein. And I have some recipes if you want. So you can do a chia parfait, for example, or something like that. If you think it doesn't have a lot of protein, this one is like a very small, very low amount of protein, but one that I love for the texture. If you're a vegan and you want to replace kind of this meat feeling or meat texture inside of your dishes, especially curries and all that, is jackfruit. Jackfruit, when you cook it, it has kind of the same consistency as like sliced pork. So that's one that I love having too, also in my fridge. If I want to make a vegan curry or something like this, then jackfruit is really one that I love using to get more of this meaty texture. Let's move on to my favorite thing, which is spices. Oh, I forgot for proteins also, of course, peanuts. Peanuts is the same. It has more than 20 grams of protein per 100 grams. So that's something that I just snack on. If I just stay on this topic of snacks, whenever I'm hungry and I don't know what to eat, I either go for fruits or even dried fruits, which is some that I love. So I have dried apricots that I always go for, dried mango. I have also like just coconuts, coconut chips like that. And peanuts is one I said. Yeah, here are my dried apricots. And what else did I want to show you? Oh, and of course, chocolate. If there is one day that goes by without my chocolates, it's not a good day for me. So the thing I do is, in general, after lunch, I always have 2 squares of dark chocolates, and in the evening, I would have 2 squares of milk chocolates. That's also just to show you that you don't have to restrict yourself for any foods. Whatever you love, I always use the principle of 80-20. So 80% of the time I eat nutrient rich foods, and 20% of the time I eat whatever I want. So I don't restrict any foods in my programs. You really eat whatever you love and enjoy. And it should really, the enjoyment part, I think this is coming from my French culture, but that's a big thing. Eating is a social moment, something you need to enjoy. It's not about filling your stomach. So eat foods that you love. For me, that's chocolate. I'm a real addict to chocolate. And that's also to prove that if you're on a weight loss journey, you can totally still eat chocolate or whatever you fancy. If that's pizza, pasta, whatever it is, or donut, cookies, and you can still lose weight. You just need to be mindful of the calories you're eating and what is the amount that you're eating, and also what is your 80-20% rule. So chocolate, big one for me. When it comes to still snacking, but that's more like my coffee after lunch, I either have like decaf coffee or I have matcha. And I'm not saying that caffeine is bad. If you want to have your dark coffee, just go for it. But I know that I have a lot of fire inside already. And I know that it just excites me too much if I have caffeine. Actually, even 1 cup would be even too much. So I either use decaf or matcha, which is one that I love. And I would generally do my matcha with plant-based milk. So I always have different plant-based milk at home. Here I have soy and oats. But I also have sometimes hazelnut or almond or coconut or even rice milk. I literally drink them all. I'm really addicted to plant milks. So those are the one I have. And then I would just make it a little bit sweeter, either with raw honey or maple syrup. Maple syrup, I cook with it like a lot, especially with Asian dishes too. When I do pad thai, for example, I would put just soy sauce with maple syrup, or even in miso, like a lot of the things where you need to have this sweet and sour flavor, I use actually maple syrup, which is it adds a great taste to it. And one that I forgot before when it comes to protein, and which is a superfood, is maca. So maca is actually coming from the cabbage family, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it or ever used it. It has a very special taste. So drinking it raw, it's very intense, but you can put it in your smoothie or blend it with other food to just mix this intense flavor. But it has a lot of protein too. It has, I think it's 13 grams of protein. So still a good amount. And it is known for its aphrodisiac properties. So also, this is just a lot of people have experimented it and said that it worked. For me personally, I never felt like really with having an increased sex drive afterwards. But if you want to try it, be my guest. A lot of people just swear by it. So that's for maca. Let's move on to spices. Spices is really my favorite thing because that's what brings so much flavor to your dishes. Few that I'm addicted to. First of all, I don't know if you live in the Netherlands. I actually don't know if they commercialize them somewhere else, but those are the spices from Euroma. I don't bring them all out because I think I have like 10 of those and they're just the best ever. My favorite one of all is Ras El Hanout from them, which is really, really good, and Al-Andalus. If you look at the ingredient that they have inside, it's things like cumin, coriander, red paprika, black pepper, fennel, oregano, anise seeds, laurel, and parsley. And it's just pure. It has nothing else, which I really love because sometimes they put weird stabilizers or preservatives in spices. Those are just 100% pure, so I really love that. Another one that I'm addicted to is just plain curry. This one is from Dubai and I don't find any that tastes as good as this one yet. But yeah, plain curry is one that I always cook with when I do my Indian curries. And I made a video about Ayurveda not a long time ago. And if you go back to it and you look at the profiles, like with Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, for me, the imbalance that I often have is Vata. I have an excess of air. So through my food, I really try to bring more fire into it, especially with curries. And that works really well for my digestion. And I've seen a lot of change in my digestions when I started implementing more of those techniques from Ayurveda. So I know that, yeah, having an excess of air, I really need to bring those grounding, rich, warm foods like curries. So I always do curries most of the time. It's always very rich what I cook. So curries, and then I have another collection from Fairtrade Original, and those, I'm not going to show you them all, but it's basically, I have my tom kha kai soup, which is a coconut Thai soup. I have Thai panang curry, Thai masaman curry, Indian tandoori, and Indian korma. So as you can see, I love the flavors from the world. I think it's just the best way to cook for me. Other two that I also love is Lebanese shawarma. I do meatballs actually with those, which are really, really good. And harissa, also for my meatballs. They're just delicious. When you think about what I cook with as a condiment, so first my oil, it's always olive oil. I don't cook with anything else but olive oil, except if I'm doing some Asian dishes, and then I would use coconut oil because that just works better with the recipe. But literally olive oil, there's nothing better than that. So that's always what I cook. I just don't fry it, but otherwise just for your normal cooking, if you're doing whatever dishes, it works. Just avoid frying it, again, because it loses its properties and it oxidizes itself, but the rest, totally safe to use olive oil for everything. And then on top, either I have balsamic cream or balsamic vinegar, which I love. I really like especially the balsamic cream because it's sweeter. And then one which is coming from my region, and that's a vinegar, but it's a vinegar with honey, and that's just the best vinegar ever. I've never found it here, so I always bring it from France. It's from Melfort, and that's just the best. When you do, I would do a vinaigrette with Melfort, with mustard, so Dijon mustard, olive oil, and then Maggi, of course. We always have Maggi for everything. Every vinaigrette we have in France, we have Maggi. So those are the 4 ingredients you need with salt and pepper and to have an amazing salad. That's a French tip. For the sauces also, the thing that I always cook with or soy cooking cream or coconut cream. And that's again to do all of my curries, or if I want to do a cream chicken or something like this, then I would use the soy. And for any of my curries, it would be in general coconut milk. Some protein. So same, if I feel I'm not having supplements, I'm not supplementing proteins every day, but if I'm doing a weight training and I didn't have enough protein during the day, then I would add some protein. You need to be very careful, because if you're in a weight loss program, if you want to lose weight, eating protein every day probably isn't a good idea, because it's still calories that you're drinking. So even if you don't have the impression it's just a powder, it still adds some calories. So you need to be very mindful of how you mix those. But whenever I don't feel like I have enough protein or I want to supplement, then I would use protein powder. And I have another video to explain you how to choose your protein powder. I'm not going to talk about it here, but that was just for the protein subject. What didn't I talk about? So we have the grains. Oh yeah, other supplements that I use. So I don't take a lot of supplements, but the few that I take work really well for me. So first there are some E-omega, how do you call those? So omega-3 and omega-6, yes, exactly. And that's a fish oil supplement, basically, which comes from doTERRA, and they sell it in a package. You can buy them separately, but I buy the package with the other, which is called A to Z supplements, and that's just your multivitamins. So you have all the vitamin A, C, D3. Oh, that's, by the way, a big one. If you ever buy vitamin D, you always want to buy vitamin D3. I'm not going to talk about supplements here, but just so you know, that's the one that we're deficient in general. It has vitamin E, K, vitamin B12, everything basically you would want in a multivitamin is inside this one, and you take them in complement. So I use those two as a supplement. And then Terrazyme, which is also one of my favorite from doTERRA, and that's just a digestive enzyme. So especially if I feel, I don't take them every day, but if I feel like I'm gonna have a heavy meal that needs a lot of processing from my body to digest it and break it down, those caps really help. And you take 2 to 3 with each meal basically, and they really, really help with your digestion. I love them. Maca I talked about. Oh, my tortilla. That's another staple of mine. Tortillas, which are just so easy to make and so quick. So if I want to have a quick meal and I don't know what to do, I would just go for tortilla. It's literally made in 5 minutes. First of all, your tortilla, you don't even need to put them in oil or anything. You just put it in the pan back and forth for like 20 seconds on each side, and then it's done. And on the side in another pan, I would do my chicken, some spinach, red onions, what else? A bit of lime, corn also, which I have somewhere here. Yes, crispy corn, and just cilantro also, which I have here, like fresh herbs, of course, and salt and pepper. And then that's it. You can put a sauce if you want, maybe either barbecue sauce or your own yogurt sauce, and that's just so delicious and so quick to make. So even as a breakfast, if you don't want to have a sweet breakfast and you want a salty one, a savory, I would totally recommend those tortillas. They're just the deal. Fresh herbs, as I said, I always try to have basil and coriander. I'm a huge fan of coriander, so I always have this. Then eggs, which is, I'm addicted to eggs, so I'm not vegan as you can tell, but I'm addicted to eggs. Then my blender, which is actually one of my most indispensable utensils in my kitchen, because I use it in the morning to do my celery juicing. So if you have a slow juicer, that's way easier and you can do it with that. I don't have a slow juicer yet. So for now, I just put my celery inside of the blender with water. That's also the thing, with slow juicer, you can have it pure, which is better, but in the blender, you cannot do it without water. So I would fill it with celery, then put water, blend it, and then you need to strain it with a cloth. So I would use this one and just put it then on top of a glass, strain it, and drink the juice from it. And I do also my hummus there, I do my tahini, I do everything. So my blender is one of my most indispensable one. Then I have my baby kombucha. I need to introduce you to it. Oh, this is heavy. So if you ever drank kombucha before, I would totally suggest you to make your own. So to make your own, first you need to find somebody who has a SCOBY and would give you one, or just to buy it you can buy the live culture in the supermarket. But I personally got mine from a friend and I've just been growing it since then, and it just makes babies one after the other. So it sounds very weird when I talk about kombucha, I know, but it's just delicious. And what it does is that it really fosters a good microbiome inside of your gut. So we all have, first of all, you have more bacteria in your body than you have cells, actually. And you have good guys and bad guys. And kombucha is full of probiotics. So it really helps to cultivate those good bacteria inside your gut to make sure you have a strong immune system and that you stay healthy. So that would be through the first fermentation. So that's just the classic kombucha that you can find in the store. And then you can play with the flavors, and that's when you would put it in a different bottle. And some of my favorites are mango mint. What else did I try? Pineapple thyme. If you have a rosemary also, it's really good. What else did I try? Lemon ginger is really good. You can do so many things. Oh, I tried cranberry also. Cranberry with mint. That was an absolute favorite. It was so good. So you can do so many creative and playful experiments with your kombucha, and it's just really good for you. So kombucha is my go-to. Of course, a full basket of fruits and vegetables in general. So avocados are things that I always have because I love avocado toast in the evening with a bit of cottage cheese, for example, and salmon or eggs. Mangoes, favorite fruit of all. I love mangoes. Fresh gingers and turmeric. So those are for my teas. Generally, after dinner, I would have a tea with those herbs, and that really helps to also digest and clean your system. Kiwis, lime, lemon, tomatoes, all of those, just fresh fruits and vegetables. It's always a good idea to have in your kitchen. Then I have my Asian corner. It's not very developed yet, but the essential that I have are always udon noodles, which are like those. Miso paste, I love miso soup or ramen soup. Ramen soup is one of my favorites. Teriyaki, which also I cook with a lot. And soy sauce, same, essential to have in your kitchen. And then the last supplements that I just wanted to talk about are all of my essential oils. So you cannot see them here on the camera, but if I were to bring them all, there are a lot of them, and I don't use them every day, but here, what do I have? I have wild orange, lemon, coriander, rosemary, lime, ginger, cinnamon, pink pepper. So I have a lot of them, and basically I use them as a supplementation internally. So whenever I feel like I'm gonna get a cold or that I'm not feeling too well, then that's when I would use a veggie cap and use some oregano oil, for example. But for that, you need to be very mindful. So I'm not going to talk too much about essential oil in this video because, again, you can get intoxicated with essential oil because they're really, really strong. So you need to know what you're doing with essential oils, and you need to be very mindful. You can also just, however, add them to your cooking. So if you don't have fresh coriander, you could totally use the essential oil. And same as I just said, they're very, very strong. So probably even one drop would be too much and would ruin your whole dish. So what you always want to do here is use a toothpick. You would use a toothpick, place it in your essential oil, and then add it in your dish and see if you need more. But otherwise you will ruin your dish because it's really, really strong. So again, I'm not going to deep dive too much into essential oils, but that's just another part of my kitchen because I do everything with essential oils, from cooking with them, taking them internally, my skincare, or also my cleaning products. And that's just one of them, but I make my own cleaning products, and that's just water, white vinegar, and essential oils. And that's how I would clean basically everything in my kitchen to make it non-toxic and completely natural. So that's it for my kitchen. I hope it's not too long, and I hope it kind of makes sense. If you got some ideas, let me know in the comments or when we have one of our coaching calls. I would love to hear if there was something that surprised you or something you don't think about and that you want to add to your lifestyle. So that's it for me, and I'll see you next time.